Hello and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here today. In the month of May, I read 9 books, so I had a great reading month and I got really into the subgenre of weird girl literature, which I had so much fun with. So let's get into it so I can tell you all about the books. First, I read Yesteryear, and you've likely heard of this already because it's been all over BookTok and BookTube and already has the film rights picked up by Anne Hathaway. This book follows successful trad wife influencer Natalie, who has millions of followers, who wakes up one day in 1855 with no modern amenities and a family she doesn't recognize. Neither Natalie nor the reader know what's happening. Is it a divine test? Is it a psychological break? Or is it a sinister reality TV show? This is a psychological drama with sharp social commentary that at times reads like a thriller. The pacing is fast, tense, and addictive. I flew through this book. It explores themes of the performance of femininity, toxic masculinity, moral superiority, faith, and the uncomfortable overlap between all of them. For me, the most compelling part of this book was the exploration of social media performance and what it takes to sell a seemingly perfect life. The contrast between Natalie's online persona and her true identity is both fascinating and unsettling. This truly isn't a story with likable characters, and you won't always know what's going on, but the book will definitely leave you thinking. I can totally see this being a top pick for book clubs this year because there is just so much to discuss. It was reminiscent of Yellowface to me in the sense that it forces the reader to read from the perspective of a main character who is incredibly unlikable. I tend to love books that have a commentary on social media, so I flew through this and really enjoyed it, and I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. Then I picked up Rouge by Mona Awad. This book follows Belle, who is obsessed with skincare and watching skincare videos. When her mother mysteriously passes away, Belle travels to California, where her mother has been living. As she deals with her mother's debts and cleaning up her apartment and grapples with the questions she has about her death, Belle finds herself drawn to a mysterious cult-like spa that her mother was a devoted member of. This book definitely had me feeling confused throughout it, but I was still really intrigued. There are parts of this book that I still feel like I don't completely understand. While I was a bit lost at times, I did really enjoy the commentary on the beauty industry, aging, femininity, and race. I also felt like this book was a beautiful and engaging commentary on grief. Despite still having questions after finishing it, this was an emotional and interesting read. I rated this 3.75 out of 5 stars. Next, I continued on with the weird girl literature and read Boy Parts by Eliza Clark. This book follows photographer Irina as she lures men into uncomfortable and erotic photo shoots. As Irina's work gains more attention, her behavior becomes more destructive. Irina is rude, mean, and self-centered, so definitely not a likable main character, but at times she was one I could empathize with. Despite the plot of this book not being super fast-paced, the writing was immersive and captivating. I heard this described as American Psycho, but with a woman, so I was inspired to watch the film, and I agree that there are definitely similarities there. Just like Patrick Bateman, Irina is unlikable, lonely, and struggles to determine what's real. This book does provide an interesting commentary on the social standards between men and women. This book was both captivating and disturbing, and I rated it 3.75 out of 5 stars. Another weird girl book that I read in May was My Husband. This book is about a woman who has an unhealthy and all-consuming obsession with her husband. Her obsession leads her to scrutinize and punish him for any flaws she perceives. I felt exhausted reading this book, but not necessarily in a bad way, just in the sense that the wife is so obsessive about all of her interactions with her husband. She journals and ruminates about all of their interactions and monitors him. Her obsession with him leads to strained social interactions with others, including her own children. This book was absurd and humorous. The ending of this book was fantastic, unexpected, and reminiscent of the thriller genre. While the ending was unexpected and ultimately sad, it was the perfect end to an intriguing and strange book. I rated this 4 out of 5 stars. Switching up genres, I picked up a romance read, which was Our Perfect Storm by Carly Fortune. This was one of my most anticipated romance releases of the entire year because I have read every single book written by Carly Fortune. Unfortunately, it turned out to be my lowest rated Carly Fortune book to date. This book follows Frankie, whose fiance leaves her unexpectedly the night before her wedding, so she decides to go on her honeymoon with her longtime best friend George instead. There were definitely parts of this book that I really enjoyed. The Canadian setting felt super authentic, especially the references to the 2023 wildfires. As a Canadian, I remember literally wearing masks outside that summer because the air quality was that bad. My friends who live in northern Quebec also had to evacuate their home that summer due to the wildfires. So I truly think Carly Fortune always captures Canada so well in her writing. The dual timeline structure in this book also worked well for me. It kept the pacing of the book moving forward and added some tension even when the actual plot was pretty predictable. Unfortunately, I saw everything in this book coming. As soon as our main character Frankie revealed that she and George have each other's names tattooed on their ribs, I knew her marriage was destined to fail. It was very obvious to me they were in love long before the reader is supposed to know it. Frankie's obliviousness in this book also got a little bit frustrating, and I really wanted her to open her eyes to what was going on. I also felt that the third act conflict was very unnecessary. I am a third act conflict hater, and this book just validated my hatred for it. It felt like it was just there because romance books are supposed to have one. This book was not bad, and I still think it's a great summer read, and of course I'll read anything else Carly Fortune writes, but it just wasn't my favorite. I rated this 3 out of 5 stars. Going back to the subgenre of weird girl literature, I picked up Death Valley. In this book, we follow an author who is dealing with a chronically ill husband and a father who is in the ICU. She takes a break from caregiving and escapes to California, where she encounters a magical, mystical giant cactus during her stay. This book is definitely weird, but it also has an intriguing commentary on grief, anticipatory grief, and being a caregiver. As weird as it might be to say, this book kind of reminded me of a Salvador Dali painting in the sense that it is surreal, warped, and dreamlike. I rated this 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I picked up was a thriller called Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. This is a psychological thriller about a mother who struggles to move on years after the disappearance of her teenage daughter. I appreciated that this book diverted from the typical mystery thriller setup in the sense that there was no big twist at the end. The reader knows what's going on and can predict a lot of the plot, but it still kept me engaged because I wanted to see how it played out. I wouldn't describe this as a scary thriller necessarily, but I would describe it as unsettling. I really enjoyed this and was captivated the whole way through. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. Also love that I was able to find this secondhand for $5.99. Nice. I also read The Vile Village by Lemony Snicket. This is the 7th book in a series of unfortunate events. This is a children's book that follows the Baudelaire orphans whose parents have tragically passed away and their relentless one-time guardian, Count Olaf, who is determined to steal their fortune. I am slowly rereading through this series that I loved so much when I was a kid and actually got me interested in reading. This book was campy and humorous, as all of the books in this series are, but it was also a little bit repetitive and formulaic. Each of the books in this series follow a similar formula where the orphans find somewhere to live and then Count Olaf comes in and tries to steal their fortune. Overall though, this was fun. And last, I read Annie Bot, which was my second 5-star read of 2026. This book follows Robot Annie, who was created to be the perfect girlfriend for her human owner, Doug. Annie was designed to satisfy all of Doug's physical and emotional needs. But the more human Annie becomes, the less perfectly she behaves. I never thought I would care this much about a robot. What starts as an intriguing premise quickly becomes something much deeper. This book was fascinating, yet absolutely terrifying, and I never thought I would care this much about a robot. This book explores themes of womanhood, autonomy, sexism, and emotional abuse in a way that felt both relevant and unsettling. What surprised me most about this book was how deeply I cared about Annie. Logically, I knew she was a robot, but emotionally, I was deeply invested in her story and desperately wanted her to find freedom and agency. I definitely did not expect a book about a sex bot to become my second 5-star read of 2026, but here we are. This book is a must-read for fans of literary fiction, especially if you like weird girl books. I of course rated this 5 out of 5 stars. So those were the 9 books that I read in May. I would love to hear about any books you read in May in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again with a new video soon. Bye!